Okay. First of all, I just want to say thank you, God. As you know, my videos are very repetitive and say the same thing, and it's okay. Maybe you'll watch just one of them. I just want to make sure that I say all that needs to be said. And the truth is, there's a lot of perps around you, an ecosystem of people who really want you to just go along with this influence of the mind in these retarded ways. And I just love the fact that I can put the reality in their face and make them eat the reality as they try to escape from. Since reading this book, it's been just like more obvious. And to see this clown. And they use a lot of childlike individual, teenage individual, just people who don't mind sounding and even not even care how stupid these things look. And some of the cases is that even people in the professional environment that you're in, grown men and women, because they understand this is bigger. We're talking about technology that they've been working on for decades. Me reading this book about Jose Delgado's calling it the physical control of the mind. And in his back of the book saying this, right? And bear with me the reading. It says this, right? I'm going to read the first paragraph. By direct manipulation of the brain is a novel event in human history. In this volume, Dr. Jose M.R. Delgado describes his pioneering work in implanting electrodes in the brain of cats, monkeys, and men through electrical stimulation of specific cerebral structures. Delgado demonstrates how movement can be induced by radio commands, hostility may appear, disappear, social hierarchy can be modified, sexual behavior may be changed, and memory, emotions, and thinking process may be influenced but remote controlled. Like I said, 1969. It's funny these perps have these things of try to negate reality. They tell me, oh, they're going to be in 69. They use very childlike individuals and also very childlike tactics of like trying to deflect. Because you just heard what I just said. This is not from a conspiracy theorist that wrote this book thinking, people. This is a man in the 50s and 60s who implanted devices in people's brain and saw the result, and based on that was understanding of the implication. Obviously, this is in the 60s, so what they're capable of doing then and what they're capable of doing today is drastically different. The level of ability today, you can only imagine. You can only imagine with the technology we have today what they can do. The level of influence and manipulation we're talking about today. If this man said that in the 60s, and by the way, a lot of this work here, a lot of these things here is 50s and 60s, early 50s. These things here, this is not this is what he was doing. This thing here, I mean, this is what he was doing in the 50s, and was able to see what stimulations and manipulation cannot be, and the implications in the 50s. Today I have some retards human being that want me to not think I'm being manipulated after even this level of validation. I'm going to put the reality of what they use this gaslighting ways of trying to be like, no, there's something there. Yes, there's something there that can be manipulating the brain. And they use very childish. Like I said, for me, it's just a fateful thing. Thank God that they're using this psyop of people who, even today as a country, people have noticed them as being people who just at this point, it's not even people that you shouldn't even listen to. Majority of the country don't even see them as people who you should just like. People have gone immune to this level of psyop, because in politics right now, to push agendas, governmental entities create some kind of facade, and the facade helps create a narrative. This is something bigger than me. I'm just saying that in general. And so the facade has been kind of looked at in a negative way lately is this woke-like, progressive-like, liberal-like facade that now people are like, this is just too much. You guys are just too nonsensical. It's going too far. I'm progressive, by the way. I just want to say I'm not a conservative individual, but they're using that same psyop and same facade that is used to influence a country in these ways, which no longer is influenceable as it used to be, because now it's looked at as kind of ridiculous. They're using that to make me acceptive of what they're doing to me, as if they not manipulate me. And so I was going to the office and I was looking at this trash, because for me, I get along with people who are more on the progressive side. This is really where I lean toward. I'm not this I'm not this conservative kind of person. I'm not. Now, this program, doesn't matter what you are. They're going to present a psyop, a facade in front of you. Some targets an individual think that the perps are like some kind of like cult or some kind of like political. It's the government using you, just like they're using these monkeys, but this time they're putting that on the field. They're testing us. They're not even testing. They're using us as test subjects. Manipulating, testing this technology and the capability of the technology and how far it can go. How manipulative it can go. How acceptive this manipulation can be looked at. We're now these things. This minus the devices that need to be implanted, because the person who wrote this book, Jose Delgado himself, while he was doing this, because it was going on at the same time where the program called Program Pandora, where they were using electromagnetic technology. He said, oh, I could have done this thing with none of these devices that you see there. I could have put a monkey to sleep like this. He says that in an interview. I could do this here. If you see this right now. See, this is when he's awake. And you see the little device here? And this is when they put him to sleep by this remote control technology. At the time, that was just implanting devices. He said, I can do this. I could have done this using just this electromagnetic technology with no devices implanted. This is in the 50s and 60s we're talking about. This man is known neuroscientist. He's saying that in the 50s and 60s. Okay, fast forward to today, make it now 2025. What do you think they can do? So it's clear now your brain can be manipulated in all different ways. Now, it seems like today what they try to do is not only manipulate your brain, but they make you accepting of this manipulation. And so they create an ecosystem that are willing to dumb themselves down. So your brain, as it being manipulated this way, they can make you think that it makes so much sense that everybody around you is believing it in this ways. Yeah, that's proof. Like a child that you want to believe that Santa Claus exists. So everybody in the room is like, oh, ask him over there. He saw Santa Claus. And like, yeah, I saw Santa Claus too. Right? In that kind of, they do these things with me to make me accepting of this. It's like, oh my gosh, I look at the thing they love to do, right? It's like today they're using their phone. Right? They look and then they saw to my phone, and because I'm like, okay, they have a whole chapter here called Historical Evolution of Physical Control of the Brain. This man talks about all these different historical points where they could manipulate beings. I'm supposed to think today that because they're looking at their phone, my brain is now being manipulated. First of all, if my brain, if they were able to do this in the 50s, able to manipulate things in this fashion in the 50s and 60s, actually, it will make a lot of sense that the evolution consists of now people, and I think it's even way more sophisticated than them looking at their phone. I think they're looking at their phone because they want me to see them looking like look at something that will give them the database. The truth is, I don't even think they need to look. I think it's even way more sophisticated than them looking at their phone and looking at the data. I think it's just more of a gesture for me to see them. But would I be stupid? It's like, oh, when I'm being manipulated, they couldn't see that on my phone. What? It's not like a common sense of where it would go first. I think it's even further than that. I think they're even minimizing the level of how they can actually capture what's happening to me. Because one thing I've noticed is when I'm being like, once I remember I getting this nasty manipulation, somebody turned around immediately. They didn't have to look at their phone. It's like for them to know that means that somehow they are connected to this network. They didn't look at their phone and look at me, oh my gosh. No, they just turned around. So I was like, okay, so obviously, and now it makes sense that it would be this is no longer just unique to one person. This is a network, and the manipulations and this connection is at scale. So I don't even think that they even need to look at my phone to see, oh my gosh, we saw the result here. I think they somehow there's a connection, but this is something that I don't know. But to use them looking at their phone as if, oh, because I'm looking at my phone, you're not being manipulated. It's retarded. And they're like, so that, look, I just saw this, I see this, that. I'm like, what? Like, how old am I? I was like, oh my gosh, they wouldn't be able to, like, they wouldn't be able to manipulate my brain because you're looking at your phone. Like, if anything, I would think, oh, they're seeing how my brain is being manipulated through their phones. But they have this gimmickiness about them to negate things like that. Where in 1969, they say these things, and right now they have these clowns around you try to deflect reality. So it's just retardation. And they contract this ecosystem of people who have no shame of how stupid they sound like. Right now, these perps contracted by these governmental entities, there's people in the hallways yelling, making noise campaign, trying to say whatever they can to make me anxious and anxiety, like things that I'm not going to subscribe to. They know I look at them as a clowns. I walk around the building reading this and seeing how they're going to act retarded. Looking at this, I'm like, okay, yeah, no. I'm looking at just making sure I look at this. I'm like, okay, okay, yeah. So it's just been so obvious what is happening. So target individual, please don't get lost in the facade and the psyop. They know more than you the level of manipulation that you can experience. They know that they're supposed to confuse you. They know they're supposed to disorient you. They have no shame how obvious it looks like. For example, I'm talking right now, there's people in the hallways clearly saying these things to try to agitate me and make me feel anxious because I'm about to bring up how they want me to think. Because this morning, I woke up thinking like my brain, I felt the damage in my brain. I was like, oh my gosh, do I have a tumor? I feel some weird feeling and like soreness of my brain. I feel like my brain has just been damaged and destroyed. And also then I'm start having this thought process manipulated in this level of retardation. I think sometimes because the thought process is so mentally challenging in regard to almost retarded, they really are rewiring my brain in ways that's so damaging to my brain that I can feel it. This is how they start this thought process. And right now, this purpose are in the hallways because they're supposed to agitate you. It's part of this like psychological ways of breaking you down. I wake up, they start making me think. I see something about Colombia. I'm looking at the weather. That's how, and they all organize this in this way. I see something about Colombia, something like that. Somehow I'm looking at the weather in Colombia. I've always wanted to go to Colombia, and I'm honest. I'm gonna be honest. The reason why I want to go there is it's not because of perfection. It's because I know that Colombian women are very beautiful women too. I'm not perfect. I'm never gonna pretend I'm perfect. I have my perversion. I know who I am for real. They just rewire me in different ways. And they use these retards around you to try to break you down. This trash compromise to the nth degree. And I love the fact they do that. And I hope that you can capture the yelling in the hallway. I hope you can capture that. And so I see that, and they just try to mess with me. Because at some point, they will try to mess with me. And they're like, they're like, oh, but remember, you know that the age of consent, sexual consent over there is like 17 years old, and that's why you want to go to Colombia. Because you know the age of consent there is 17. Like, you're freaking retarded. And I think the reason why this came in me knowing that is because I thought about going to Colombia, but it was after August 19, 2019, and I was getting like, I got this like dating app called Badu or something like that that's popular. And I think I got nervous there because like, oh, they're gonna try to set me up. I don't want, and I think I saw like that thing at some point that like, because in some of these places the age of consent is 17 years old, that they will let 17-year-old be on it and do something like that. I got nervous. Thankfully it was blocked because I'm in the US, and they so I was so thankful. And I was nervous at first, like they're gonna try to set me up like that, but I was like, okay, never mind, they won't, this is not allowed here. And so, but I knew at this factor. So now they're like, oh, you just know that the age of consent in Colombia is 17. That's why you wanted to go to Colombia. Now, listen, I'm not perfect. And I know who I am. I'm not thinking about some teenager when I'm thinking about Colombia. I'm not thinking about some 17-year-old when I'm thinking about Colombian women. Just like majority of people who think about Colombian women. Matter of fact, I'm not perfect. And I know there's other people who appreciate Colombian women, and there's a lot of them. Colombia is known. A lot of foreigners go to Colombia because there's a lot of beautiful women. I just want to put the reality, have the rewire in my brain. I will never paint myself. I will never paint myself as somebody who's perfect. I don't even want that. There's a lot of, like, if you, tourism, foreigners going to Colombia because of this Colombian women. I look up on Google, it's like, why do people go to Colombia? And it's like, hey, there's, you know, because there's a lot of men going to Colombia and Brazil because of women are like this. It's so known for it. It's so known for it. This trash. I tried to reconstruct the reality. No, because you know the age of consent is 17, and that's why you want to go there. They really start breaking down my brain. It to make me think this is why I want to go there. As one of the places known for the beautiful, they would say, nice, but they have no shame. The thing is, it takes people who have no shame to try to push somebody to think in this way. Then they start changing the thought process because they were messing with me. When I was in my early 20s and late teens, I used to go to a place called Medusa. The people there were about the same age as me. I started going there when I was in my late teen, high school, then when I was in college. The people there going there were about the same age. But to go in there, you could be 17 years old. To go in, to drink 21. And so the people that you see, the majority of the demographic there were between late teen, early 20s. The same age I was going. And so I, at one point, was with somebody who was 3 years younger than me. And they were like, and they were messing with me. And it's like, hey, but the age of consent is there. And so I became familiar with the age of consent because they were messing with me. About me when I was a late teen and early 20s. So somehow, I also know about New York too. So it's also here in New York, I guess the age of consent is 17 or something like that. These perps start twisting around, like, oh, you know the age of consent here in New York is 17 because you want to be with 17-year-olds. Like, you get your nasty retarded mind, get your retarded dumbness away from me. Bring this 17-year-old kid. I don't give a F if this 17-year-old over there having sex with adult or not. Don't bring them near me. Nobody here in this room are interested in any of your 17-year-old, your teenage, of whatever age. Do not bring them around me. And they're like, no, that's because you see, that's why you know your age of consent. Like, I don't care what age these retards are. Do not bring them near me. And they're like, I'm 17 years old. That's what this trash in the hallway starts painting. And this is how this technology has evolved, the evolution of this technology. Your thinking process are being manipulated, and my brain is really being constructed. It's like, why would you know about this? It's like, because you guys were messing with me when I was a teen, and then somehow it got back to like what here in New York, the age of consent and all that, and they try to play with my brain. It's like, oh, you see, you know about that age of consent here because you want to be with 17. No, because you were playing with me when I was a teenager, and then somehow it came to New York, and what age consent here. I was like, okay, I don't care. I'm not interested in none of these retards. It's like, no, I'm 17, so it's okay. It's like, no, I don't give a... If you're 17, go have sex with an adult then. Don't come near me. And at the same time, some next door neighbors, apparently I'm going to be framed with. She comes out. As you know today, then they could manipulate the sexual behavior. So what they do today, they make me have sexual stimulation to children of all ages, from the babies to the older kids. I look at the thing. I couldn't even see her face. They stimulated me. It's like, oh, they see, we mapped it. These people who were being able to manipulate the brain to have sexual arousal since the 60s and 50s are forcing me to get sexual arousals toward these fucking teenage retards. Put this thinking process together to make me accepting of this manipulation. That no, we're not manipulating your brain, we're mining your brain. Because what they do is to make you acceptive of these manipulations. First of all, they change the verbiage of what they do. They change the way they say, they try to make you understand. They use different verbiage because they are manipulating your brain. But they don't want to say, we're manipulating your brain, we're map. The truth is, they're mapping the brain to make you have the experience that they want you to have. So they design this reaction because they've mapped the brain in regard to knowing what to stimulate for you to have these reactions. So instead of saying, we're mapping your brain to manipulate your brain, it's like, oh, we just mapped. No, you are mapping my brain. You've mapped my brain to make me able to have sexual arousals as you desire for me to have them. So you're manipulating my brain. You have mapped my brain. You have mapped millions of brains to be able to control their brain in whatever ways you can. And a very common tactic of them is to make people have sexual arousals toward children, because they've mapped the brain to know what part of the brain can make somebody have sexual stimulation on cue whenever they want. Now, this is old. On top of that, what is sophisticated is the thinking process. I wake up, I swear to God, I feel like my brain has been just destroyed, damaged. And I think it's because they were implanting this thought process. And I wake up with this level of mental retardation. Because that's what the things they can do. We are monkeys. In the sense that we're being used as test subjects. And these men, women, and children going through this to continuously develop the technology that can map the brain to the point of manipulation of all levels. They are manipulating our brain because they have mapped, because in this book you can see, in the initial state, he's learning what part of the brain that needs to be stimulated for it to get the reaction that they desire to have. You can see that he's learning, oh, we do this to that brain, to a part of the brain, boom, sexual stimulation. Doing that to women, finding out, oh, we're stimulating the brain there, she's getting sexual stimulation, boom. Beginning of mapping things here. For what? For the physical control of the mind. Then they use these fucking retards that think that they can be convincing when they're retarded. Manipulating the brain and rewiring, changing your thought process and your sense of reason, of thought process. It's like, no, but you know the age of consent because you want them. No, I don't give a... You dumb trash. You're the one here messing with me, talk about me when I was in going to Medusa mission, when I'm like late teen, early 20. Then I'm finding out the age of consent is that. Then, but because of that, they make me on. I see the age consent of this city or this state, and then they're like, oh, you see, you want some 17. I don't want none of this trash. And they know I don't want them, but sometimes some of them want to method act. And that's bad, that's dangerous. Because they think in their fucking retarded mind that if I act a certain way, he will let them live their fantasy. Nope. Danger. Don't do that. That's all I can say. Don't do that, because I know what you're doing. It's not just evil because you're doing that to me, but you do evil things to even babies. So don't do that. Till my time individual, stay strong.